Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, dead tired from Terrificon. Great show, unbelievable panels. I'm so happy to have been a part of it. Thank you, Mitch Halleck, for making a part of it for all these great years. And a lot of great programming out of it, man. You've already tasted a bit of it with my Ralph Macchio and Strange New Worlds panels. Well, today it's a spotlight on Mark Waid. Of course, Mark right now, the fate of the DC Universe is in Mark Waid's hands with his miniseries Absolute Power. The next chapter comes out in the beginning of September. And then after that, just one more chapter, only 4 issues. And it then dovetails into both the Absolute line and all the other plans for DC All In. So Mark tells us what he can about the Absolute Power story. He also gives us a little glimpse of what to expect in the Justice League Unlimited series that he will be starting after the events of Absolute Power. And you're going to learn a lot. And I'm always happy to talk to Mark. He's one of my favorite people in comics. And I really appreciate how our friendship has grown all these years. Mark Waid, Absolute Power, on today's Word Balloon. Word Balloon is brought to you by AlexRossArt.com and the film The Legend of Kingdom Come. This feature documentary is an origin story about the beloved 90s-era graphic novel from DC, Kingdom Come, going behind the scenes and inside the minds of its creators, Alex Ross and Mark Waid. You'll see many famous other comic creators and me in the documentary. Can't wait. The Kickstarter campaign is coming in the weeks ahead, and we will be telling you when to sign up. But you can already pre-sign up now on Kickstarter. That's The Legend of Kingdom Come, coming soon on Kickstarter. Word Balloon is also presented by my listeners, the League of Word Balloon listeners. The help that I get via contributions from Patreon, patreon.com/wordballoon. You hear the entertainment that I provide from Word Balloon every day, that I do a new episode. I am very fortunate to have the great creators of comics and pop culture willing to come on and give you great entertainment. I hope you will consider making an actual cash contribution via Patreon, even $1 a month. But really, if Word Balloon is worth the price of a comic book a month to you, it would be greatly appreciated if you slide that extra money you would put on an issue of a comic book to Word Balloon via Patreon. Patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you, League of Word Balloon listeners.
Be thinking of questions, please.
Yeah, seriously,
Think of questions.
Mark and I talk all the time, which is fantastic, and we can go an hour, but this is your opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're mid-story on Absolute Power.
Whatever you like. Everything's...
Everything's on the table. Old runs, obviously World's Finest, anything. Is there...
nothing off plate, nothing off
there you
table.
Go.
Yeah.
There you go. Plus, as you may know or may not know, the man knows everything about both universes.
There is that.
So if you really do have, how come Matter Eater Lad does X? He knows.
I probably know. This is sadly true.
So
I can only name 32 states, but this I know.
Not even the classic 39.
No.
Texas is the largest of our 39 states. Exactly. Fantastic, man. All right. Hey, everybody, thanks for coming out. This is great. And truly also because I'm like, why isn't the other panel room next door to the other panel room? I'm like, are people going to be able to find it? Obviously you did, and that's great. I'm John Suntress. I host a podcast called Word Balloon.
Yep.
It's at wordballoon.com. Oh, thank you, guys.
Yep.
We have other podcasts represented in the audience. First of all, the Splash Page people are videotaping, which is fantastic. And it's an excellent discussion show. And another great discussion show that started 6 weeks before me, and next year's their 20th anniversary, just like mine, Comic Geek Speak. One of Brian Chrisman, Pants, everybody, right there in the front row. And I hope Pants has questions. I hope everybody has questions. So anyway, we're here. Absolute Power, fantastic, and we're here with the man behind it. Everybody loves him. He's one of the best writers in comics. Mark Waid, everybody.
Thank you. Please sit down. It's okay.
So we are mid-story.
Yeah.
First, and forgive me, the previous big status quo that set up where Amanda Waller at the final page is like, All right, let's begin.
Yeah.
And I forget what that was called, if it was...
Beast World, I think it was.
Was it the end of Beast World?
Titans,
okay.
Yeah, Titans did this big Beast World event that was for her finally like, okay, now we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she assembles her team, and I love this team. First of all, is everyone, caught up on the story?
Say
good.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent. But really, man, all these little pieces, God, a failsafe from Batman is a crazy idea. But I'll rattle them off, and you tell me how did you assemble Waller's team, or again, was it a group effort? But you got Waller,
right,
and Brainiac Queen. Mm-hmm. You've got the Amazos,
right.
You got Failsafe Batman. You have on the civilian side Sergeant Steel, Dreamer, which is interesting, and. What the hell, Oliver Queen, you turncoat. My God.
Look, if anybody has a history of looking at the Justice League and going, even though I was a member, you guys kind of take things into your own hands a little too much, I will go with Ollie. So, but most of them were dealt to me. Most of them were,
okay.
We want to do something with Brainiac Queen, we want to do something with Failsafe, and a lot of them were just suggestions from editorial, and that's totally fine. Dreamer was a suggestion. I didn't expect her to be as big a part of the story as she was, but as people tritely say, but it's true, the characters start taking over the story if you write them right. The Amazos was mine. The Amazos was...
Oh, cool.
I love the Amazos. I thought that was the way to get into that story and make it sort of relevant to an earlier World's Finest story we did with Metamorpho with the Amazos in it. So... yeah, it's a combination of me bringing stuff to the table and them having things in play that maybe we could do something with.
We've got 2 issues out.
Yeah.
The third issue comes out the first week in September.
Yeah.
And DC's been nice; they let me read it already. But and I won't spoil, I promise. But I also, as usual, in an event, beyond dealing with the big bad, you get these wonderful character moments of people dealing with things. And I know, again, in the previous status quo, even before Beast World,
right.
The Justice League retired.
Right.
And now the Titans are the first responders to any big crisis and stuff. And I absolutely adore this one moment in the story where they're all arguing, we need to do this, we need to do that. Or Mr. Terrific, I should be the tactician. Batman, you're not experienced enough, blah, blah, blah. And finally, Dick Grayson's like, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
I got this. Don't worry. You do this, you do that. And that's awesome. And talk about, Dick having the first chair now.
I mean, Dick, that's the one thing that Dick Grayson Robin has done that Batman has not, which is successfully led a team. Batman ran the Outsiders for a while, but they never ran smoothly, and they just kept being canceled and stuff. So, but Dick has the experience that nobody else has. He also, I think he's somebody that everybody in the DC universe trusts, because if this guy was trained by Batman, then we know he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Well, and again, further, he's nice.
And unlike Batman, he's nice all the time.
I remember during Infinite Crisis talking to Jeff Johns, and DiDio was just like, "Hey, we got too many Robins." I know, I'm sorry, buddy, but honestly, you and Jeff answered the question, because it's like, why do we need Dick Grayson? And it's like, because, like you just said, all the heroes, from Young Justice to the Justice Society, everybody trusts Dick Grayson.
Exactly.
I love that about him. That's excellent. Yeah, man. And there are more Dick taking charge scenes to come from where I've read issue 3 and everything. It's great. Some of the other characters that are getting moments, and one young one that I was really glad to see, because I remember when he had backups back in, I want to say, Action.
Yeah.
Airwave.
Nobody remembers Airwave. I am very fond of taking these characters, the ones that nobody seems to remember, and dragging them kicking and screaming into 2024. And I love that character. And I don't know, I can't even really articulate why. He's just
I get it. He's a legacy character from the 70s.
Right.
His uncle or his father was the original Airwave of the Golden Age.
Right, exactly. His dad was the original.
Okay.
So that character goes back to 1942. So, and then he vanished for a long time after the 1970s. But there's just something, I needed a point of view character that was brand new to all of the superhero stuff. At least, in Arnie and Kearney, he's been a superhero for a while, but he also has never played in this kind of big league situation. He's never been on, he was dealing with bank robbers and stuff.
Right.
This is big stuff. And so he worked out really well for us, and he continues to be a player in Justice League coming up. And I really like that character, and I've made, my editor has said I didn't even know who he was, and now I'm a fan.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah.
So, and forgive me, Mark, because I'm forgetting, and there's so many announcements and stuff. You are taking Justice League
Justice
over.
League Unlimited, yeah.
That starts in October?
That starts October, November, I think it starts.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Is Absolute Power 5 issues, 4 issues?
It's 4 issues.
That's what I was surprised.
So that ends in October.
Right.
And then it hands off directly into what DC's doing with their Absolute line, with the Absolute Superman, Absolute Batman, and so forth. But then it also hands off directly into Justice League Unlimited #1, which is November.
Okay.
And Dan Moore and I are doing that one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Man, you guys are such a great team. Of course, Dan's doing the art choice on Absolute Power.
Yeah.
Has been killing it on World's Finest.
Yeah.
And the guy is the next Kirby in terms of being a machine.
Yeah.
And the way he crank out issues.
Do 3 pages a day if you really wanted to. He's amazing. Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's outstanding. Tell me about some of the other wrinkles of the team. Like you said, you brought Brainiac, or for Amanda's team, you brought Brainiac Queen in.
Yeah.
And so this, like, Brainiac decided he wanted Bride of Frankenstein sort of creation, essentially?
Yeah, that was a Josh Williamson thing, but that was the idea that Brainiac decided he needed somebody, he needed, again, Frankenstein's bride, that's what he needed. And so the deal with him, I asked him at the end of his story, can you leave her a blank slate, sort of revert her to sort of a childlike, a blank slate mentality, so that we can do with Amanda Waller and her what the Kents did with Clark Kent. Like, and when Superman shows up, he's found by a kindly couple and raised with ethics and morals. This one is, Brainiac Queen is found by Amanda Waller and raised in a very loving environment, but also with that twisted sort of sociopathic view towards superheroes, so that's what made her a villain.
I also love the idea, and it's great because it's just suggested that Amanda has been using fake news, fake out videos and things like that.
Oh, it's just straight up true. I mean, it's not even subtle. By the time we get to the 4th issue, it's not even subtle. She's been using AI. She's been using Brainiac Queen, pumping out fake news videos to everyone, every social media outlet, everything, just showing the Justice League doing all kind of horrible things. So that, because the idea of Absolute Power was, I want to take everything away. It's not just taking their superpowers away. It's that Amanda knows all their secret identities, so they have no way of hiding out anywhere. She turned humanity against them, so they can't turn to anyone for help, and they are completely on their own, and they're completely lost. So that, I really wanted that sense of hopelessness by the first issue.
Do you guys have questions? Just a little show of hands, because truly, I want So really, I want to give you guys as much time and opportunities to ask questions and stuff, because otherwise, Mark and I are just going to blather to each other, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, sir, you want to start?
It's going to be a really nerdy comic book.
Jeez, I hope that's okay with everyone.
The answer I'm going to get is it's comic book logic, right?
Right.
So I struggle with Amazo because how does essentially an advanced robot steal the powers of a Kryptonian and then magic powers of Shazam and then shape-shifting powers of Beast? Like, those are very different biology.
Yep,
right?
sure.
It is a struggle as we'll call it my spectrum brain to fantasize about a robot being able to do all of that that was built by a human.
Right. That's comic book logic.
There it is.
All right, there you go, man. Well, Amazo originally did kind of in that way the Super Adaptoid did in Marvel. Was able to mimic all their powers. Yeah. So I mean, forgive me for answering, Mark.
For Gardner Fox in 19.
We'll break out the Ouija board and find out what Gardner was thinking, and Julie too. We may as well ask him what he was thinking as well. That's fantastic. Was there an editorial edict for this story? Was this story always meant to not only be an event, but go right into Absolute?
Yeah, or not Absolute, their end of the universe, but it was set up to go into Justice League.
Okay, yeah, of course.
So that was the idea.
Okay.
And the fact that it ended up something that we could also branch into the Absolute stuff was just serendipity.
Okay. And Justice League Unlimited, I know it's a couple months away yet, but without spoiling, kind of like the cartoon, that it's just like, all right, everybody in the DC universe, you're in.
That's exactly it. If you're in the DC universe, if you're a superhero and you want to be a member of the Justice League, congratulations, you're in the member. So
excellent.
In that first issue, I think we see just in cameo and everything, we probably see 40 or 50 different characters, and it's mission oriented. It's okay, you're the best person for this gig. You're the best person for this gig. So the first issue centers around, let's see, Superman, Wonder Woman, Firestorm, Black Lightning, and Star Sapphire. And second issue, Blue Beetle, Airwave, a few other characters, and I just like mixing them up that way.
Sure.
So, they're always...
Which Blue Beetle? Is it Ted or Jaime?
Both.
Oh, it's both. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's just, as many of the, especially like half obscure and semi-obscure characters as I can bring in, I'm down with that. Or the characters that have their own books but aren't really a member of the Justice League, bring them in too.
Yeah.
Renee Montoya is the Question, is going to be the security officer of the Watchtower.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. So it's basically the whole roster of the DC Universe is open to me.
And Dan's drawing that?
Yeah.
Very good, Dan Moore. Wow, that's amazing. Well, that's great because again, 25 years ago when James Robinson and Johns and Dave Goyer were doing JSA, it was a big tent then too.
Same thing.
And,
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And our tent's even bigger because that includes that tent. Yeah.
Yeah, man. By the way, and again, without spoiling, a couple great Justice Society moments in issue 3
Thank you.
of Absolute Power that I was very happy to see. And it's like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Thank
great.
you. Yeah.
So, other questions, please? Sir.
So you've got script reading stuff in the 60s and 70s, so people sort of have their biases about what they like. How do you integrate more legacy characters versus what you want in a comic?
I mean, the good news is my editor and I think very much alike about the characters that we want to service, so that helps. I try to balance it because I know that a book with nothing but Airwave and Blue Beetle in it is not going to sell.
We don't buy it.
Metamorpho is not going to move a comic book right now. But so you try to load it up with there will always be in Justice League Unlimited, for instance, there will always be Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman in some combination, maybe all three in each issue. But that gives me then the bandwidth to say, okay, those are the marquee characters. Readers will be there for that. That gives me a chance to bring in the Crimson Avenger or whoever. So, yeah.
Here's hoping. Absolutely, man. I didn't mention regarding, and I promise I'll get back to that questions in a second, but another key moment in Absolute Powers, our key plot point, the corruption of John Kent.
Yeah.
Baby Superman, what the hell, man? So not only does Amanda depowered all the heroes, she's got a young Superman at full power, and they're all frightened. And I understand because he's out of control. His memory has been wiped, and he's just potentially a killing machine. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You've got one person with superpowers on the planet, and that's an evil Superman. Yes,
outstanding. That's great. How are you playing with the John Kent and Clark Kent dynamic of father and son?
In this, you'll see in 3. Really, it really is makes this whole thing not only. It's personal to all the heroes because they've lost their powers, but it's especially personal to Superman because now you have my son. And
right.
You have corrupted my son. You have co-opted my son. And so I just like the fact that father-son break is there, and that also gives Superman, let Superman and Nightwing, who Dick Grayson, who knows him well and stuff, there is that friction between half the heroes are like, we got to take him out. And the other half of the heroes going, we can save him. Just cool your jets. We'll figure it out. And that's that friction between. You want a situation where all the heroes don't always think exactly the same way, and they butt heads sometime. And that's one of the big ones they're butting their heads over. Is like, look, I understand that you think it's all rainbows and unicorns, and we can save this guy for the power of love, but he's got Superman's powers, and we're scared.
Absolutely, man. No, again, fantastic debate in issue 3 coming up in 2 weeks.
Yep.
So look forward to that. Pants, you got a question?
Yes. With your love of Superman, how hard was it for you, the latest issue, to destroy the wild city of Kandor and its Fortress of Solitude?
I know. Trust me, the Bottle City is just fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bottle City will be just fine. It's and there's there will probably be another. I'm not going to blow up the Fortress of Solitude forever.
I bet he can build a new one.
As a matter of fact, I actually was busy writing the Action Comics series that's coming soon because I've been writing.
Yes.
I've been writing that for a year behind the scenes, and the first page is the Fortress of Solitude. So I'd already written that by the time I blew it up in Absolute Power 2. So it'll be back. It's all good.
Does your action arc follow Gale's arc?
It does. It follows directly on it, yes.
Wonderful. That's great, man. Man, and that's been so great to see all of these arcs by all the A-listers
Jason
and stuff.
Aaron and Gale,
Jason. Yeah. I'm like, Jason, long run. Now I'm done. Next arc coming. I'm like, okay.
But mine's 12 and it's weekly.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's why I've been working on it for a year. So we could be working up a backload and stuff. So I've finished the 9th issue, but that gives us plenty of time. Clayton Henry's doing the main stuff, and then a newcomer called Michael Schelling is doing. I basically carved
Mike Schelling, the DC marketing guy.
No, different guy.
All right, there we go. I was going to say, really? Double duty?
Unless I get his name wrong, in
No,
which
no,
case,
go on.
Michael, I apologize. Then I said, give me 5 pages out of every issue. I'll do 15 of the Superman arc, and then 5 pages that will be a subplot stuff. So
Sure.
That gives Clayton a chance to breathe, and it also gives Michael a chance to come on and do something. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. That's fantastic.
Thank
wow.
you.
And when is the action arc? So Gail's math, yeah.
Right, so probably 8 weeks from now.
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
Wow. All right, way in the back first.
This is, I guess, more of an industry-related question.
You might need to step up.
And I mean, regardless, I was going to repeat it for the podcast, but go ahead, sir.
As a writer who's been in the industry for quite
Ever.
some time now,
Yeah.
and this industry doesn't seem like it favors a lot of older creators.
Dumb luck.
What is your key to?
What is Mark's key to longevity in the business?
Dumb luck. I am real
Shut
dumb
up.
luck. I am grateful every day because nobody gets a career like this, and that's not a humble brag. That's just sort of an amaze, sort of like nobody gets to have an unbroken 40-year run like this. I feel like I'll jinx it if I say much more than that, but it's like the coyote walking off the cliff. If I look down, I'll plummet. I don't know. I just take it day by day. If you want a serious answer, I think that as much as anything, it's that I haven't developed any cynicism for the medium or for the characters, and that I still enjoy reading brand new comics. Nothing makes me happier than picking up a comic that shows me some new technique of storytelling or some new way of doing comics that I hadn't thought about before. And once or twice a year, I'm lucky enough to stumble across something like that and bring it into my own work. And it's just I pay attention to what new people are doing, and I don't get lost in the morass of nostalgia, and I don't get locked into this feeling that only people from the 1980s knew how they were doing comics and everybody else sucks now. That's a terrible attitude to take.
Did your writing have to change much? It's funny, I was talking about with Ralph Macchio and his era of a story in 1 or 2 issues versus the 5 issues, the 12-issue stories and things. I mean, you obviously have been writing through this period.
I don't think it's... I mean, if it's changed, it seems to just change incrementally. I think that the only changes have really been, sometimes we do things in 5 issues where I would, have preferred doing smaller stories. But the techniques I use, the way I address the characters, again, that lack of cynicism, I think that's always been there. And the urge to write against the grain, which we did with Flash when everybody was doing dark and gritty and grim stuff, and Flash was the opposite of that, and Impulse was the opposite of that.
Daredevil.
Yeah, Daredevil completely the opposite of what they've been doing before, and I enjoy that because, sometimes people are going to look at it and go, not for me, where's the old Daredevil back? But every once in a while you strike gold with like Daredevil, and you get rewarded for writing against the grain because you're doing something that nobody else is doing. And that's the place I like being. I like being in the place where I'm not doing anything that somebody else is already doing across the industry.
Before we get back to the fan questions, another wrinkle of the last 40 years has been the shift to people doing creator-owned books as well as working for the big two. And the generation before Mark, the pinnacle was writing for DC, writing for Marvel. Right. That was the mountain. That was the top of the mountain. And you've certainly had your share of creator-owned stuff. Is that now in the back of your head? Do you have time to still pursue new creator-owned things? Where are you?
I don't have time. I've got a few things back. Okay. I've had a few things over the years. I've had Empire and Potter's Field.
Absolutely. Irredeemable
and so forth. But there's something I enjoy about playing in the sandbox because I don't love world building.
Okay. Interesting.
A lot of people do. I don't love having to start completely from scratch.
Wow.
I like having the toys to play with.
Sure.
I like having the Batcave and the Daily Planet and whatever. I like having those pieces in play because I've been thinking about them since I was 6. And so the chance to do things with them that maybe you haven't seen before, that's the fun of it for me.
Do you ever run into like an old 80-page giant or one of the Silver Age comics and you're like, oh, there's somebody I had that as I always pitch, I said this to, and I can't remember who, but I said, it was Mike Allred. I'm like, I would love to see you draw Ultra, the multi-alien, who's only in like 5 issues of Strange Adventures or 3.
Mystery in Space.
Mystery in Space. Okay, excuse me. Again, thank you for the correction.
7 issues. So, okay. 8 issues, 103 to 110. Okay, 8 issues. And It's a goofy ass character, but yes, he's on the list.
Attaboy.
When I started World's Finest, I really did go through a million old comics and just made my wish list of all the characters I want to use at some point. And so month by month, just scratching stuff off. Look, Amos Fortune, gone.
Excellent.
Luck Lords, there we go. So that's the fun of it for me, is playing with the old toys.
Is the Inferior 5 somewhere on that list?
Inferior 5 is tough.
I respect that.
It's tough because it is not politically correct.
Oh,
well,
Dumb Bunny here.
There's a character on the Inferior. The Inferior 5 was a lampoon of the Fantastic Four, and one of the characters was a super strong blonde named Dumb Bunny because she wasn't very smart,
but very pretty.
And that's very hard to pull off.
Well, I would agree. Well, there you go. Well, maybe much like Wing in the Seven Soldiers, maybe we could have Who Killed Dumb Bunny.
Exactly. Because here's the thing, too. It's that I could change that. I could monkey with that and make it a different character, give her a different personality. But then that doesn't feel like the Inferior 5 either.
Right, that's true.
I really take the Hippocratic Oath with this stuff. I really like to try to do no harm to stuff, because at some point someone might actually have a take that works on that character, and if I don't, let's let somebody else take it that might be able to run with it before I screw it up.
That's excellent. Has anyone told you that other writers that, God, what you're doing and picking all these different things makes me... I mean, King, I know on his own, Human Target, obviously, and even Mr. Miracle, but, So have others told you, like, oh, that's great, I'm going to,
I want to use Metamorpho now. Exactly.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I've had that a few times. Yeah.
Fantastic. Back to the people. Yes, sir, middle.
So, hey, my name's Pete Weiser.
Oh, Pete. Hey, Pete. Oh, hey, Pete.
Hey, I'm a regular.
Pete's a Word Balloon supporter. Nice to see you, man.
And I mentioned to Mark just how appreciative we are of folks like him coming on to the podcast.
Of course. Everybody wants to be on this podcast.
Oh, God bless you all.
It's the Playboy interviews of podcasts.
It's great.
Man.
It's great. So, question for you, Mark, and this is probably something that's come up over the last decade plus, reoccurring, but with the movies and comics, always kind of, whether they're working together or, if there's any mix of kind of what's going on with the Gunn Safran kind of restart to the DC Cinematic Universe versus kind of this clean...
The Murderverse, before that, yeah.
With the comics, so that Jim get you in the room and tell everybody, like, hey, listen, let's kind of get back to basics for folks that might be jumping in.
Not really. I mean, it's really the nice thing is that certainly at Marvel, and maybe less so at DC, but probably more so now that James is in because he's a fan of the material. They are very good about not letting the cart get before the horse. Like, the great thing about the Marvel characters in the Marvel movies is they take their cues from. And it's very rare that somebody comes down the hall and says, okay, we're doing this with a Doctor Strange movie, so you have to change the comic to match that. It basically is the opposite. Like, we're going to follow what they're doing, and the same as I've seen so far with the James Gunn stuff. We've been, like, for instance, with Metamorpho, because when I love Metamorpho, I put him in the books. Now he's going to be in the movie, and so the edict was, as far as you're using him in Justice League Unlimited, let's just make sure that what we're doing isn't too far afield. It's not don't do this. It's just don't kill the character, for instance, and then there he is on the screen. So they've been pretty good about it so far, knock on wood.
That's cool. That's excellent. It seems like there's a lot of experimentation that DC is willing to do in the comics in this current era.
Yeah.
Okay, gentleman with the cap and T-shirt, and then you in front of him next after that.
Just to build on what you were saying about World's Finest, how did you pitch that? Because it's clearly in the past with the young Dick Grayson. It's got like a little bit of Silver and Bronze Age feel to it.
Sure.
But it totally feels like it still fits in continuity. So
Yeah.
push forward.
Which was the goal. I mean, I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it as a complete separate standalone. This is not in continuity, because then people would not read the book.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't care if it's not. So I made a point, especially with the first few arcs, to make sure that there's something in that arc that ties into something that we're doing in the DC universe later, whether it's Lazarus Island or whether it's the Amazos or whether it's Kingdom Come, whatever. So all I had to do was say, if that book ever becomes available, World's Finest, that's like my dream book. And then 6 months later it became available, and the editor called me up and said, we want you to do like standalone. We want you to do classic characters, because there's no other place in the DC universe right now where you can get the classic versions of those characters that most people are familiar with. Because at that point, Batman had no money, he was out of the Batcave, right. Superman was off planet, and he's got a son, and so the idea was, let's get back to the basics here and give the older fans something to enjoy. And the fact that it comes off looking like modern is because Dan Mora knows how to make this stuff look amazing. I will constantly send him reference on an old 1960s Batman villain who looks like an idiot. You know, this looked great in 1965, and this doesn't. This now he looks like that's a ridiculous look. And I'll say to him, just change however you want. This is just a starting point, but do whatever you need to do to make it look modern, and it'll come back and it'll be exactly what it looked like in 1965, except with Dan Moore's spin on it. It looks modern, it looks contemporary. So that's the beauty of it.
I'm so glad Mark mentioned Kingdom Come, because if you don't know, and they made an announcement in a panel at San Diego, and Mark was on the panel, the people behind Alex Ross Art are making a Kingdom Come documentary. And there's going to be a Kickstarter campaign for it in September. It's already shot, but they spent a lot of money, and they wouldn't mind recouping some of the production money back. But really, I am proud to say that I am one of the talking heads in the documentary as well. And hey, clap for Mark, man. I mean, Mark A is the co-creator, and B, so I mean, yeah, whatever. I don't even know. I mean, God,
do I come off okay in it?
I haven't seen it yet. Sal Abenati, Alex's main guy. You guys are amazing. You guys are and that great Chicago accent. You guys are fantastic. It's fantastic. I'm like, all right, excellent. Whatever. But yeah, so be watching for that. If you are a Word Balloon viewer or listener, you certainly will hear commercials leading you to the Kickstarter campaign that starts it'll start in September.
Yeah, and I'll put it on social media too.
Yes, obviously, if you're following
Instagram, Mark. It's Mark Waid Writer. If it's, if you're 80 years old, I'm on Facebook, if I'm on Blue Sky. So, all right, so the fella in front of the phone.
Right, yes, sir, by all means.
Mark, long-time fan. Great to see you here.
Nice to see you, sir.
So I was wondering, writing for Marvel versus writing for DC, do you find there's any difference in terms of your access to the toy boxes, or?
No, not really. Well, I mean, there is, in terms of the access to the toy box, there is, only because Marvel, there's more stuff. They're less willing to sort of have that character show up in 4 different places at the same time, unless you're Wolverine or whatever. But the ones I want, sometimes I don't get to play with them right now because they're busy doing something else. Whereas at DC, they've just thrown open the doors, which is just lovely of them to just throw open the doors and say whatever you want to do, with whoever. So, but other than that, there's really no difference. I mean, it's all about character. It's all about finding a take on these characters that you haven't thought about before, and finding a way to explore that, and just doing what I love.
So they both pretty much have the same approach to storytelling, you think?
Yeah, or at least I do with them, yes. And nobody corrects me at this point. So, yeah.
You know what I love, though, you're in particular, and I always say this to Mark, Mark's Invisible Woman arc.
Thank you.
And it's like, finally, Sue Storm, who literally is one of the most powerful people in the Marvel Universe, gets her own series. And it's like, because really when they did A-Force during Secret Wars, I'm like, good. Yeah. Good Lord, there's so many great women heroes. Let's go with that, and let's have them more in the forefront. And Sue is, really, I would say equal to Reed in terms of prominence in the Marvel, 616.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really love that. And again, that's the thing. Mark always finds a way of finding a wrinkle that no one else is really playing with.
You give it to a physics minor, and I love science, and so you find, I've found ways to apply Sue's invisibility powers that you haven't thought about. Like the fact that if she can control light waves, then she can change colors of things. She can change her hair color to disguise herself. Little things like that. That's the fun part for me.
Absolutely, man. No, that was fantastic. Is there someone here that, yes, sir, right in front?
Is Norman McKay supposed to be Little Nemo all grown up?
Norman McKay from Kingdom Come.
There's a little bit of that, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's a little bit of that. That was kind of I think you may be the first one to spot that in 25 years. So give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That's great. Because I always heard, obviously Alex modeled Norman after his father,
who is also named Norman. So there is that. But I remember, and I hadn't even thought about it until you brought it up. But I remember in the very early stages of building that thing, Alex and I talked about the Little Nemo aspect of it and walking through the dreams and stuff, like the Little Nemo ancient comic strip character from the 1800s. So, yes.
Windsor
McKay.
It was Windsor McKay. Yeah, of course, and hence Norman McKay. Yeah, geez.
Actually, yes, I think that's where you're right. That's where we came up with the McKay name.
Fantastic.
I'd totally forgotten that. That is exactly the McKay name. It was Windsor McKay's Little Nemo. Holy smokes! I wish I'd remember that when we were talking about talking to the cameras.
You know, you really, if you don't know your comic history, you really need to go on YouTube and look up Winsor McKay, because he made some incredible early animation. It's all silent. Gertie the Dinosaur is what he's best known for, but he also did the sinking of like the Lusitania or one of the other big luxury liners that went down, and you will be blown away, because really this is pre-Disney. I mean, this is the earliest animation that survives, and it's incredible stuff. So here's your homework assignment, if you will.
Totally. Thank you.
Please, ma'am.
What's your name? Hang on. What's your name?
Brendan.
All right. Thank you, Brendan.
Brendan, good job, man.
Yeah.
Very cool. That was awesome. Miss?
You seem to write Lois Lane better than a lot of people do. And she's one of my favorite characters.
Thank you.
First of all, she deserves a book.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
What do you bring to her that you think is different that makes her work so well?
I think that, my take on Lois is that here is someone who is just so good at what she does, is that she is so accomplished that people are coming to her all the time with wanting suggestion, wanting help, that she's a helper too, but people are constantly at her door and constantly sort of tugging at her sleeve. And again, there's also the basic plight of women in America, which is we expect you to do everything we want you to have everything, but you also have to work in so many different directions all at once, where men don't. And then here comes this guy who can literally lift her up in the sky and fly with her and take her away from all this stuff. And that is the heart of their relationship, I think.
And also, isn't you've written them both as
married and as single?
Yes. And do you prefer the marriage?
No.
Okay, that's interesting.
No. Full out no.
Because I think you do lean into the fact that Lois can be Superman's conscious and remind him in a grounded way of, hey, you're doing it. I always say that about Foggy and Daredevil too, where he can get in Matt's face and go, you're doing it wrong. I don't know how to tell you this. Yeah. And certainly Lois is like, Clark, don't be an idiot. You're doing it wrong. You know.
Now, here's the thing. I respect the marriage, and I think that the fact that Superman has been married since 1992, so most everybody who's alive and reading comics today has always known them as married.
Sure.
I would never take that away, because it brings some interesting stuff to the table. But for me, it's hard for me to wrap my head around Superman being married, and I'll tell you why. Because to me, Superman is the ultimate fireman. He's the ultimate sort of everybody counts. Like everybody is important to Superman. He cares about everybody. And to put him in a situation where he is married and has a kid is a different dynamic, because suddenly now he has people that he cares about more than as he should.
Sure,
as he absolutely
of course.
But that, to me, changes the dynamic, and it makes it, and you can get a lot of good story mileage out of that. I totally understand, but for me, it's harder for me to wrap my head around a Superman who has a set of priorities rather than just, I need to be there for everybody all the time. Also, I miss the love triangle between two people. I miss the Superman.
Lana was amazing, and I'm very bummed, and I don't know, what do you do with Lana Lang in today's DC universe?
I have no earthly idea.
I hear you, man.
I'll figure it out. If you give me that, I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Please do.
But the love triangle between two people is, one of the things that made that character work for,
it's Betty and Veronica.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean Clark and Superman and Lois. There's your
excuse me, I meant Lana, but go
there's
ahead.
your love triangle between two people.
Well, that's true. Well, that's true too, and she didn't know.
And so this gets back to the Hippocratic Oath. This gets back to the things that made that character survive that long and were special, like the secret identity, like the fact that Lois didn't know or whatever. All right, I'll get to the next part in a second. I'm jumping ahead, but
go ahead.
That's the stuff that I would be nervous about tampering with, because again, you never know what you're going to change about a character and break it. Wonder Woman's the best example ever. Wonder Woman was an exceptional character and a groundbreaking character in the 1940s because there was an undercurrent of innocent sexuality to it. Not corruptive, not creepy, not icky, but that was an element of it. And when people, in the 1940s and late 1940s, everybody got panicked about this, and so she became like just another Superman with boots, or with
and also pining for Steve Trevor in that bad Silver Age Lois Lane way.
Really bad, yes. So you've broken that now, and I don't know how you get that back in the 21st century without it being overly creepy sexual. But
sure.
So there's an example, or the Blackhawks. So the moment you take the Blackhawks or Sergeant Rock or any of those characters out of World War II, you've broken them.
Interesting.
And so I'm always mindful of the fact that there's these X factors to these characters that have existed so long that we don't know exactly what that X factor is that's going to break it if you break it. If we did know what that X factor was, we would be creating characters that lasted 80 years all the time.
Sure.
And we don't do that. And so anybody who thinks they know what that X factor is for Batman or for Superman, you can have your theories, but if you think you know for sure, you're full of shit. That's not, you don't know. So I'm nervous about taking that step and breaking the Hippocratic Oath of these characters, unless it's very heavily considered. The other thing I was going to say was the one thing that people say about Superman and Lois knowing the secret and so forth is that I hear the cry. I think I may even mention this on your show, that I hear the cry a lot of times. Well, Superman says he never lies. Superman always tells the truth, and yet he's putting on a pair of glasses and pretending to be somebody else around other people. To which my answer is there is a difference between secrecy and privacy. There is a huge difference between secrecy and privacy. You know, I don't wear my Google password on my T-shirt. You know, it's okay for as long as Superman, and when I write him, as long as Superman never looks you in the eye and says, "No, I am not Clark Kent," which is a flat out lie, then I think everything else is on the table. That's me, but that's very much how I feel about it.
Hey, I argued with Bendis the whole time, and I'm like, really? You really want to do that? You really? Yeah, it's gonna be great. And it was great. I really enjoyed that story. I thought that was fun. I personally, I'm glad the secret identity's back. If you like Clark and Superman not married years ago, and you could find it, it's in an old paperback, Further Adventures of Superman. You can find it on Amazon or third-party sellers. Mark did a great story called Forget Me Not.
Oh, that's right.
I love that story.
Thank you.
And it's just
not the Forget Me Not.
It's my only prose short story.
Wow.
It's the only time I've ever tackled prose because I'm intimidated by it.
Well, I thought you succeeded. It's a classic Superman and Lois story. It really, really is.
All right, one last thing about Clark Kent.
Please, of course.
You open that door.
No, I want to hear it.
That the other reason that Superman needs a secret identity is because if you were Superman 24/7, then people don't know how to talk to you.
100%, Mark.
Ordinary people are not going to come up to you and have the same kind of conversation they would with you if you were Clark Kent. You're going to lose track of what humanity wants. You're going to lose track of your own humanity because you are not living among the people. You are Tom Brady at the sports bar 24/7. You are Taylor Swift at her concert, and that's what you are.
Yes,
and you can say you're as approachable as you want to say, but people are not going to come up. Well, that is why Clark Kent needs to exist.
That's what I said to Bendis. I'm like, because he's like, well, people will open up to Superman. I'm like, and again, I don't mean to pick on Brian because A, I love Brian, and B, it was still a great story. But I'm like, that's like if you're meeting Superman, that's like the Pope. You're going to be on your best behavior, right? Even if you're not a Catholic person, it's going to be okay, or the president, a president, whatever. But anyway,
if the Pope said, if you were to meet the Pope and the Pope were to say to you, "How are you?" You're not going to say, "Well,
Your Holiness,
Your Holiness, I got this thing with my shoes."
I got this hitch in my underwear that I really can't get rid of. Exactly. Your Holiness. But no, exactly. And truly, that is what I love. And really, I think the best writers have shown characters in story situations. They open up to Clark. Yeah. Because Clark's a good guy. And he's great. Michael Chabon wrote an excellent story that was on This American Life where a guy was jealous of Superman, and he opens up to Clark. And it's like one guy I can talk to about this is Clark Kent. And it's awesome because as Clark, Superman is just incredibly kind and good to this guy and being nice to him and stuff. Anyway, sorry for the tangent, everybody. Please, next. Sir.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about Clark Kent, not the Deadwood. It came to mind as you were speaking about how Clark and Superman, the dynamic, how they view each other, how the individual views people. It came to mind about Tarantino's take on Superman. Bullshit. And I wanted to get your opinion on it.
There are two people who should never be allowed near Superman. That's Tarantino and Zack Snyder.
Remind me, because I know that's the great speech that Carradine gives. Yeah.
So Tarantino, what he's basically saying is that the Clark Kent is the way that Superman views humans, which is that they're weak and they're feeble and they're cowards, and that's how Superman sees humanity.
Got it. Yeah, interesting.
Exactly the opposite. And I get this in Superman, The Last Days of Lex Luthor #2, which should be out sometime this year, I hope. But if I can remember what I wrote 5 years ago, there's a moment in there where Wonder Woman is talking to Lex and explaining, because Luthor thinks much the same thing. Luthor thinks Superman must think where he's above us all. And she's like, no, he thinks human beings are amazing. Because look at the things they do every day. They go to, they just crossing the street is dangerous. Being a fireman is dangerous. And yet people do this and they are not invulnerable. They don't have the advantages he does. And yet these people go to the moon and take that kind of chance. This is just, Superman looks at humanity like, oh my God, you people are astounding. I am in awe of you people. That's how Superman views humanity. So take that, Quentin.
I wonder if J. Michael Straczynski took that view when he was doing Hyperion and they were doing Squadron Supreme, because that really seems to be Hyperion's attitude towards the human beings and stuff. So there you go. Just an observation. The devil, please. Satan, question?
He's Matt Murdock. Okay.
Oh, you are? Yes, you did.
Devil. Yes.
It seems to me that there is a resurgence in the love for the Boy Scout Superman.
Yes,
sure.
What are the days of the darker Superman or the Snyder Superman, for example? Why do we think that? What do we credit towards that?
I think you want to repeat for the audience.
For the audio and video audience. It's Superman. The Boy Scout Superman is back and seems to really click with people. Why does Mark think that?
I think there's two things. I think that because over the last 8 or 9 years, this country has turned into a cesspool of hate, that we need that sort of thing, that we look to people who are kind, because that's Superman's number one trait. He's kind. And we look to that for people. I think there's also, on a broader sense, I think that we look more towards not just Superman, but Star Trek Strange New Worlds is a great example of, it's not nostalgia, but it is, old school Star Trek stuff, but with a modern veneer, but it's still episodic in nature, it's still light in nature, it is not dark, it is not gritty. There are other things, there are other TV shows, there are other movies that are not, they're going against the old grain of everything's got to be dark and mean and stuff. And I think that's part of it. I think as a culture, we are just so exhausted with being angry all the time and being faced with division and hate all the time, that we are looking for anything that reinforces the notion that there are people out there who are just good people.
I like it.
Thank you. Good question.
Absolutely. Sir.
My name is Brandon Powers.
Sure.
I'm from Splash Pages. We've already mentioned a couple things about, doing your own stuff like Irredeemable, and how, there's a deep and abiding love for the hopeful Superman that we're seeing all over the place now. In regards to like Irredeemable, we talked about a little bit about cynicism earlier. When you were writing that story, when you were developing it, before you get to the last couple of pages, it's a very cynical book.
It's a very cynical book.
And I turned those last 2 pages, and my jaw dropped. Because I'm a kid that was raised on Fleischer cartoons, Silver Age comic books. My dad was an OG geek. I had no choice. And when I got to these, I almost teared up, because it's exactly the kind of thing that we should be seeing more of. And it's only now that we're starting to see the spin around. I don't know if everyone's here actually read Irredeemable. If you haven't, do it. But the fact that you went into it, did you know you were going to end it like that?
That bullet was in the chamber. If not from page 1, it was in the chamber early on, because that's the only way I could write a cynical book for 37 issues, is knowing that the final spin was going to have to be a very hopeful, very uplifting moment. For those who don't know, it's basically a story about what if Superman were raised by, a crack mom who has no, is no connection with morality. She's not a good person. And the moment that baby shows that they have heat vision, she just ships it back to the orphanage. So I don't need this. And so the kid is brought up in a series of homes, all of which, they take the kid in, and once they realize the kid has super strength or whatever, once the kid loses control for a moment, as kids do, they ship the kid back to the orphanage. And so that's, it's nature versus nurture. If you're Superman but you weren't raised by the Kents, what is your life like, and what you turn into? So, but yeah, it was always meant to be a hopeful spin at the end.
I've never heard you comment on that horror story. Was it Brightburn?
Yeah.
Where it was the dark, like all of a sudden, holy shit, my kid's got powers, I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of that?
Was that James Gunn?
Yeah, he produced it.
I love it then.
His cousin wrote it.
His cousin wrote it, okay.
Yeah, it's James Gunn. It's awesome. Yeah. Love you, James.
I'm sure he's sincere when he says that. Well, sir, yes, in the middle.
Yeah, I really appreciate your Spider-Man stories.
Sure, thank you.
Do you have more Spider-Man stories in you?
More Spider-Man stories in you?
I mean, nothing in my back pocket like I've always wanted to do this story, but I can always write Spider-Man because he's so easy to write. The voice just rolls out of me. And I think I'm good at remembering what a lot of people don't remember about what is a good Spider-Man story. For a good Spider-Man story to work, Spider-Man has to win and Peter has to lose, or vice versa. Peter has to win, but as a result, Spider-Man has to lose. That is the ultimate dynamic between those two characters, or the one character and his two sides. And that is a reminder that Peter is, a lovable loser. That's really what he is. So there's some in me, yeah.
I love it. Sir?
I think a lot of writers miss, and this goes back to your Clark Kent thing, I think there's amazing Superman stories, and some people play with the dynamic of Clark a little bit. Clark, to me, he's his own person, he has his dreams, he's a great reporter, but a lot of writers fall back on, he's meek, and he's quiet, and he doesn't do much until he's Superman.
Mm-hmm.
You don't write like that. You give Clark his own hopes, dreams, wants, desires, etc., because he is a person.
Right, I do, but at the same time, he needs to be invisible. He needs to be the guy in the office that you forget to ask forget to ask after work for beers. When everybody's over there having beers and they're like, we forgot Clark. Because Clark needs to be as invisible as he can be among other people, I think. He doesn't need to be super meek and mild and wacky, crazy, super meek and mild and clumsy, because then that makes him stand out even further. That's my take on Clark. There's three Clark.
No, I love it.
Welcome to the Clark Kent Hour.
I love it.
Yeah.
There's three facets of Superman. People ask what's real, Superman or Clark Kent? And the answer is there are three personalities here. There's Smallville Superman, which is the true self, the one that he was brought up to be. There is Clark Kent. Well, let me read. It's Smallville Clark Kent. Smallville Superman is Clark Kent.
Okay.
Right? And then there's the alien part of him that will never be a complete part of humanity and always feels a little bit removed on some level, just because he can do things and see things and perceive things and hear things that nobody else can hear. And that's going to put you, to some degree, that's going to create some wall between you and other people. And then there is Metropolis Clark, and that is the synthesis. That's the disguise. That Metropolis Clark is the disguise, not Smallville Clark. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I understand. I don't know that I agree with you, but I understand.
That's all right. Then you're wrong.
Outstanding.
Anybody else?
We one more question, because truly I got to get to the next panel in the other room as well. But by all means, go ahead.
I'm a big fan of the 52 series.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
I was very curious, because you wrote that with Brent Morrison and
Rucka, Greg Rucka, and Jeff Johns. Yeah.
How did you guys collaborate and divide who did what? And
we all got together with Keith Giffen, by the way, who did the breakdowns on all 52 issues. The artist Keith Giffen, and gave it a consistent visual look, which was essential to making that book work. So the five of us got together in a room with editor Steve Wacker. Steve Wacker was the perfect editor for this series because Steve comes from a background of improv comedy, and the rule of improv comedy is yes and.
Yes and.
Yes and.
You got it.
So there was never any moment in that room where somebody was off on an idea and everyone went, oh, that's just stupid. Shut that down. No. It was never that way. It was always like we all respected each other. And so somebody would have an idea and we'd follow that out to its extreme. And sometimes it didn't work and we'd peel back, but we'd all agree, it doesn't work. So we mapped out the first half of the year and an idea of where we were going at the end. And then we sort of mapped out the various storylines, and we realized, okay, Grant, you're probably best for the Adam Strange outer space stuff. Mark, clearly you want to do it Elongated Man because he's one of your favorites. Jeff, you want to do Booster Gold. And so we had several different subplots running the entire time, and so we sort of broke them up that way. But every once in a while, somebody's got to take a vacation, or somebody's sick, or somebody's overrun with deadlines. And so, Mark, can you do some question stuff for this next couple of issues? Or, can you take Blue Beetle or take Booster Gold? So that's kind of how it was, but it was constant. And every week we would be on the phone, and we'd get throwing ideas back and forth and coordinating. And, okay, what do you need this month? For this week, I need 3 pages for this scene I think I want to do. Well, I need 6. Can I get one of your? Yeah, okay. Well, I can do it in 2 if you need 7.
Yeah.
And then we did that sort of back and forth. But it was always with the utmost respect. I mean, the 4 of us in that room, it was just, it's like a band that is completely clicking. That at no time was anybody dismissive. Everybody was enjoying it. Everybody was digging working with everybody else, and we all loved each other's work, and we all brought something to it, and we all realized that. And so that's hard to duplicate. It's easy to do a weekly comic if you've given yourself enough time. The hard part is putting together a creative team that is completely in sync.
Understood. I'm sorry, we got to stop it there. Please, if you have more questions, go to Mark's table and ask him more. And of course, we're going to be following the Absolute Power into Justice League Unlimited, and we're going to continue this conversation on the podcast. So that'll be great.
Once things settle down in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to get some more traveling to do, but I definitely want to get back on the show in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
That sounds great, man. Absolutely. Mark Waid, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you'll forgive me.